and welcome to Build Better Batteries, a series that dives into the real-world complexity of battery materials and cell projects. From materials development to operational readiness, let's explore how underestimating the challenge can cost more than time and how smart solutions start with building better builders. My name is Tolu Aribisala, a social media manager at Hatch, and I'll be your host. And with me today is our very own Mark Bellino, Global Director, Battery Materials and Cells. Hi, Mark.
Hi.
So tell me, Mark, in your experience, what are the hidden costs of accelerating a battery project?
Good question. I'd say that the consequences of expediting these projects come in two different forms. There are a category of decisions that you make knowingly, but you don't understand the cumulative impact of those decisions. Expediting projects comes at a cost. Expediting projects means moving faster than normal. And oftentimes that means you are jumping to the start of a queue. And you pay to do that, sometimes in the order of 30 to 50% more. And if you do that once, it might be okay. But these projects are in continuous expediting mode. So they're making hundreds of decisions that come at a cost penalty. And cumulatively, all of that added up often increases the capital cost of a project so much that it compromises the business case. The second category of issues is the what you don't know, you don't know. It's the unknowns. And working too fast without thought process, you end up in a situation where you don't have that time to think and uncover the issues. So imagine you overlook something so critical that the plant is not able to perform when it's ultimately built and started up. It may not perform at all, not meet product specifications, and therefore you can't sell your product. Or it may function, but insufficiently. You can't make a profit, and therefore it's not sustainable. And without that profitability, eventually the doors will close. And what worse of a situation to have had this aspiration to build this wonderful battery materials and cells manufacturing facility and have to close those doors. That's what we want to avoid.
Why is everyone in a rush? What's the downside?
Well, the issue at stake is battery materials and cells manufacturers trying to woo the likes of large vehicle manufacturing companies, in this case, ones that are trying to put EVs in the market. Oftentimes, these companies will announce a launch date for these EV vehicles, and that is fixed. A delay in launch date often comes with a significant negative repercussion on their share price and market share. So this is to be avoided. What vehicle manufacturers are looking for are battery materials and cells manufacturer that will commit to delivering those important items on time to meet this launch date. So what better way to do that than to woo a car manufacturer and compel them into thinking that you are the supplier of choice and will help them meet this launch date. And so often these launch dates don't give sufficient time for project development and implementation. But if you want the contract, you've got to commit to those timeframes. Once you enter a contract, there's a second thing to consider, and that is the vehicle manufacturers don't just rely on a handshake. There's a contract there that actually imposes significant liquidated damages if the battery material provider or cell manufacturer fails to deliver on time. So post-contract signing, there's added pressure of being exposed to millions of dollars of liability if you fail to deliver on time. And so the downside for these manufacturers is, in essence, those liquidated damages. And that is where the pressure comes from to deliver faster.
Can you share a moment where moving too fast created downstream damage?
I don't think it's necessary to look at a specific example to answer that question because we see the same issues occurring in many, probably all the battery projects that are being built today. Expediting comes in two forms, and both forms add significantly to the cost of a project. The first is, as I alluded to earlier, wanting to get yourself at the front of a queue and paying to do that. And that normally ends up costing 30 to 50% of the cost of whatever you're purchasing. The second thing is the assumptions you have to make because you don't have information in front of you to make informed decisions. For instance, how big does this building need to be that will house my manufacturing process? If someone hasn't done a layout, they cannot understand and appreciate how big the building needs to be. But if a decision needs to be made in the absence of that information, you're making an assumption. There's very few engineers out there that'll make risky assumptions. Often you're making conservative assumptions. And in essence, that translates into buildings that are probably 30% bigger than what they need to be, which may add tens of millions of dollars to their capex. And if you add the cost of expediting packages, as well as the cost of not having information and making conservative assumptions, we're seeing in the market that capital costs of projects are between 30% and 100% of what they should be. And of course, if you anticipated a capital cost and it's 30 to 100% more than what you expected, you've just compromised the business case.
So, if a client said to you, "We don't have time for due diligence," what would you say to them?
Well, the younger version of me would have immediately challenged the client and perhaps created an environment of adversity. And we found that that doesn't help anything. Client often interprets that as you're not trying hard enough. I need to find a different partner that will. Today, I see the importance of building trust, meeting a client where their mind is. They're under tremendous pressure. So putting yourself in their shoes, demonstrating to them that we are trying our best to meet their objectives. But we have to put on the table that one of those objectives is building a plant that will work, that is profitable, and that there are things that if we don't do them, will likely, almost certainly, compromise the business case. So it's important that you bring all these elements together. Build trust in your clients. Reassure them that you're part of a single team, not siloed groups, that we're all working together to achieve the right thing. And with that trust, inform your client with your expertise and your knowledge of where it's okay to expedite schedule and where it's not. And you hope that the relationship is strong enough that the client will believe you and will see the gravity in what you're advising them.
Thank you so much for sharing this insight, Mark. It was a pleasure speaking with you. And that brings us to the end of this episode. Stay tuned for more insights about Build Better Batteries.